In the past few videos, I have talked about the Revit 2027 new release and some of the new features that we get with it. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the ultimate cabinetry plugin for Revit and the 27 version. Of course, I'm talking about the RCCS 27. Let's go. Now, if you would like to check out RCCS 27 Pro, it's available on the Balkan Architect website. The link will be up in the cards above and then also down in the description of this video. Before we start exploring the new RCCS 27 features, let's first cover what even is RCCS. When it comes to working in Revit, cabinetry can only be modeled as families. Now, those families are individual components in most cases that you bring into Revit, but you're stuck with the existing design and dimensions, or you need to spend a lot of time to adjust it to fit your project. Another option is to model it as an in-place family, but then you can't really reuse it on other projects. Now, for the worst part. In order to model the cabinetry, you're stuck with the very simple tools like extrusion and blend and void. These tools are just generic tools that are good for Revit families, but not if you want to create some custom cabinetry. So this is where the RCCS comes in to the rescue. It's designed to work off the native Revit curtain wall tool, so all of the geometry is native parametric Revit geometry. But instead of working with some generic tools, we get some really powerful cabinetry specific tools. So the whole process is really quick and easy. This is the workflow. So you create a special curtain wall and then you split it with curtain grids in the elevation as you would if you were just sketching out a kitchen design yourself. And then you apply kitchen cabinetry items to each of those created panels. You can then use the cabinetry customization tools to specify any design that you can imagine. Now, it does take a little bit of time to get the hang of it, but once you understand how it works, you will be much more efficient. Working with RCCS instead of regular Revit method is like the difference between working in Revit to create floor plans instead of AutoCAD. There is a version of RCCS for each version of Revit, and the 27 is just the latest one, which works with the latest version of Revit. Now, you need to make sure you purchase the version that matches the Revit version you have. So if you're working with Revit 2027, you need to get RCCS 27. If you're working with Revit 2026, you need to get RCCS 2026, and so on. So it's not that complicated, and for more information, go to the Balkan Architect website. As I said, the link is up in the cards above and down in the description of this video. Now, let me show you some of the new features for RCCS 27, and for that, let's jump straight into Revit 2027. And here we are in Revit 2027, and when you install RCCS 27 Pro, it's going to appear just like this as another tab in Revit. Now here we have all of the powerful tools, and in this video I'm just going to be covering some of the new features. I have older videos where I talk about just kind of a beginner approach to RCCS, so you can check those videos out. I'm going to leave one in the cards above and then a few more down in the description of this video. So now to get started, I'm actually going to be using some of the sample projects that are provided. So here, if I click on the plus icon, so on the data info panel, here we have the plus projects, and that's going to open up some projects that are available with this software. So for example, let's open up this unit over here, and it's just going to open up that project. This is what it looks like. It has a sheet prepared. Now I'm just going to open up the 3D view, and here we can see what can be achieved with RCCS 27 Pro. So here we have a very unique look that is achieved through presets of the insets. So here we have these insets, and yeah, they look very interesting and complicated. So you can achieve this by going here on the detail panel, opening up the type drop menu, and here we have the presets. And then for the presets, we switch to the Inset tab, and here, as you can see, is all of the options that we have. So it works like this. You simply click on the preset you want to use. So let's say we want to go back to default. and then we simply click on a element here in the model, or on a panel in the model, and it's going to do that. So here we can just kind of bring these back to original if we want, just like that. And then it's going to look like this. And then we can try other ones. So I'm just going to hit the escape key a couple of times to reset. Then let's try the vertical bars, for example. So it's just going to make it look like that. So for example, this is an interesting layout. Then for this one, we can perhaps go with this option just to kind of connect it, but I need to hit the escape key a couple of times, go to Inset 1, and then it's going to kind of connect it like that. So it's an interesting look. For this one, for example, we can try, let's just try the vertical ones on top as well. See what that looks like. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, we can test out different designs. So in this case, I'm just going to go with the let's actually go back to default here with these. So just go to default with this one. Yeah, I think that's going to look a bit nicer. And then here on top, I'm actually going to go with the horizontal ones and see that look. Oh, it's interesting. There we go. Now, when it comes to these drawers, what you can do is you can kind of connect them all to be one single unit, I guess. So I'm just going to hit the escape key a couple of times, turn on thin lines to see things a bit better. Then here on the bottom, let's use the Inset 2, just like that. And then this one, let's switch it to the Inset 13 for the verticals, just like so. And then we get this look. Now, in some cases, these may appear joined. So in that case, you just want to go here to Model and then Unjoin. So if these two are joined like that, you go here to Model and then you unjoin those. Finally, we have this option to add a separator, which is just going to make it look a bit nicer when it comes to rendering. So for that, you go here to MISC, you find the separator, and then you find the line in between like that, and there we go. So we have now added that separator. That's just going to make this look a bit nicer. We can even control the radius. So if you want the radius to be larger, you can do that. I prefer it actually smaller, just so it kind of appears better on the renderings. So there we go. That's how we use the Inset presets. Now, let's take a look at these upper elements over here. So here I'm just going to refresh this 3D view because sometimes I do get issues with the latest few versions of Revit where things start becoming transparent, something that they've noticed in 2026, and I guess it's carrying on over here. But yeah, I've just refreshed that view and now we're back. And now let's go back here to presets and let's take a look at bars. So here we have some interesting bars. Let's say you want to try something different. So here you simply click on a preset, then you click on an element and it's going to apply that preset, just like so. Hit the escape key a few times. Let's try something a bit more traditional here. Yeah, so it's going to look like that. We can try these. I really like this. I think this is my favorite, the Bars 3 preset. Just looks very elegant. So yeah, you can play around with these and try different looks and then see what works best with your project. Now let's go back down to insets, and I want to show you that you can now control the position of the actual inset. So let's say that here we want to move the inset down by 20 millimeters for this unit. What I would do is I would just type in here -20 and then go to detail, and then here we have the inset offset for V, and then click on the element, and now as you can see it moves that down. And now basically any of these items that have these insets will apply that change when I click on them. So it's a really nice way to get a bit greater control of the position of the insets themselves. Now let's talk about embossing. So for that, I'm just going to open up a new project. So here, let's open up the kitchen 3. And it's a very nice looking kitchen. And I'm just going to open up the 3D view. So as you can see, it's kind of a very modern design. And let's say here we want to try embossing on these drawers. So what I'll do is I'm just going to go here to RCCS 27 Pro. Here I'm just going to remove any values from the data entry. And then let's start by turning on the emboss. So here I'm just going to click on this drawer and then this drawer as well. Okay, perfect. Now, let's say we want to modify this further. We're not happy with the width of the embossing. So what do? Well, then I can apply a new width, let's say 30 millimeters. Hit enter, go here to detail, and then go to emboss width. And then I can assign that new width over there and over here as well. Now, if we want to control the width of this kind of outer offset for our embossing, what we can do is we can apply a new value. So let's say, let's go with 90 millimeters, for example, then go here to detail, and here we have the frame width. So that's going to control that frame width, and it's going to move this kind of towards the inside. Finally, we can use some presets if we want to. So here, let's go to detail, type, and then here we have our presets, and we have the emboss presets as well. So for example, if we want to kind of make these look as they're kind of part of one singular design, we can choose, let's say, emboss 3 on this one, and then hit the escape key a couple of times, and emboss 4 on this one. And there we go. So now, as you can see, they are kind of feel quite connected. Again, here they feel a bit too connected. So what we can do is we can just go here to model, unjoin, and then unjoin these two just to add that line. Now let's move forward by opening up another project. So I'm just going to open up this credenza project, and then let's open up the 3D view and let's talk about the lattice and slats. So here we have something applied, but we do have presets that we can use to perhaps experiment with different designs. So I'm just going to go here to type and then open up the presets menu. And then here, let's go to lattice and slats, and then here you can toggle between those. So for example, apply this one for a more square look. Then we have the slats presets. So for example, this one for the horizontal ones, and then we have another one for the vertical ones if you want to use. Now what you can do is you can pick a value here, and then that will control the width of either the lattice or the slats. So for example, if I go with 15 millimeter, hit enter, then go with slats 2, click there, it's just going to give us vertical slats, but with that 15 millimeter size. Now I'm just going to change this to 7 millimeter, for example, and then let's go with the slats too, and it's going to look like that. Now we can achieve a more solid look by going here to material, inset, and then go with, in this case, let's try vertical wood, and then I think it's going to match this design a lot better. So yeah, for example, this is the effect that would give us, and it looks really nice. And that's going to conclude this video. So we have explored a few of the new features. It's an amazing tool. As I said, it takes a little bit of time to get used to it, but once you do, it's a really powerful tool. So if you purchase it on balkanarchitect.com, there are a few tutorials just to get you started, and then of course on my YouTube channel you can find a lot more tutorials about the RCCS. If you're working with cabinets a lot, especially if you need to make custom cabinets a lot, this is definitely a tool that's worth checking out. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com, for more Revit courses. There I have over 120 hours of content, and I'm adding more each week. Make sure to subscribe for more videos, and also I've added a video over there that might interest you as well.